Hello, everyone, and greetings from Milestone Churches in Canada. We're so excited to be part of this initiative with Women Today International. My name is Demily Abrokwa, and I'll be your host for this conversation. And I am joined by four remarkable women for this conversation, which we're calling Digging Deep and Pouring Out. We're talking today about that important need and deep desire for all Christians to grow in their faith, to make room for meaningful relationships, and to pour out from that overflow. Just the things that everybody is talking about. So, without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to my guests. First, we've got Tanika Levy. Hi, Tanika. Tanika is a community and humanitarian professional in the GTA. She's passionate about helping others bloom into their potential. I love that. And in her spare time, Tanika does bar workouts.
That's right.
Okay, listen, bar workouts, I'm not sure what that is.
Yeah, like they're just really low impact, simple workouts, but based on ballet. So you do need like a little device to kind of prop yourself up on, but
Yeah,
you can progress away from the bar as
right.
as you go through it.
Right, so not for me, but thank you for sharing that. Tanika also enjoys time outdoors and catching up on her favorite podcasts. And I was talking to Tanika and asked her, what are some words she lives by? And you said grace and connect.
Yes.
Tell me more about that.
Yeah, grace. It's so important to me just to remember to have grace on myself. There's a lot of pressure that we can succumb to, I think, to be perfect, to meet certain standards. I think grace is so important for ourselves, also for others. And the same with connect. It just helps me
Right.
to remember to take time to prioritize and nourish all my relationships.
So cool because this is what we're talking about today. So you're definitely the right person for that. Next, we've got Rachel Deng. Hi, Rachel. Rachel is a solutions architect for a software startup called Coda. She just turned 30 this year. Wow. I mean, you're still at the age where you can say your age, so I'm happy for you. Rachel's been a disciple for 13 years, and she describes herself as curious, as quiet, a curious adventurer. And Rachel, you've lived abroad twice. At one point, you worked for an anti-child trafficking organization in Cambodia. At what? How old were you?
I was 20.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I can't believe my parents let me go, actually.
Yeah, way to go, Rachel's parents. I mean, this is amazing. And Rachel, when I was talking to you about your words you live by, you said kinship. It just feels like one of those words that are for like Shakespeare times. Tell me more.
Actually, it was a book called Tattoos on the Heart that inspired me to think about that word more. And it was really just about this idea of like seeing yourself in each other and connecting in that way, and how like Jesus always saw like himself in other people and helped us like be as one instead of like us versus the other.
Wow, love that. Like finding those points of relation, right, with each other. Love that. Well, welcome, Rachel. And next we've got Josephine Rinaldi. Hi, Josephine. Josephine has been a disciple of Jesus for 25 years. She's a retired teacher of 33 years.
Yes.
Amazing. Josephine, you've got 2 master's degrees. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
What did you do your master's degrees in?
I did them in Italian, and I did it in education.
Oh,
The
of
other one
course.
was in education.
Right. Speaking of Italian, you speak 4 languages.
Yes.
Italian, Spanish,
French, and
and of course
English.
English. Oh my
Yes.
goodness. Like you pretty much could speak to everybody in the world with those 4 languages. But Josephine is a caregiver for her elderly father, who's 92 years old, and she loves to travel. You love aquafit classes. You love volunteering and organizing meetup clubs, right?
Yes.
In the GTA, which is awesome. And your 2 words to live by, as I was talking to you, are faithfulness and loyalty. I mean, those are self-explanatory. And you've been my friend. Josephine's been my friend for 20 years, so I totally get it that she is a loyal friend. And next we've got Ariana Ramlachan. Welcome, Ariana. Ariana is a secondary school teacher in the Greater Toronto area in the TDS, Toronto District School Board. Ariana has been a Christian for almost 9 years, and she enjoys nature, trying new cuisines, being with friends, and travel. Okay, so it seems like this is the thing, right? Everybody loves to travel, right? So either you've all got lots of money or you're all very curious people. Which one is it?
The curious
The
part.
curious. All right, all right. I was talking to Ariana about the words that she lives by, and she said, more blessed to give than to receive. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, I think in my experiences, I feel like I've always felt the most joy when I've been able to like give to people, whether that's financially or just like gift giving or donations, or even just giving my time. I think that I always tend to feel more joy doing that than necessarily receiving things.
Yeah.
I think that when you reach a place of contentment, you don't need a lot, but yeah, it takes time. And I have my seasons as well.
Yeah, I hear you. Wow, that's great. Well, I'm just going to jump right into our conversation with a question that I'm going to pose to everybody. You know, I think we all agree most healthy Christians have a desire for a faith that's vibrant, that's growing, that's strong, that can sustain us through all the seasons of our lives. And I'm curious, what has helped you grow the most in your faith? Maybe in the past or even lately? Maybe I'll go to you, Tanika.
Sure. When I think of the times in my life that I've grown the most, no coincidence, they've been the times I've been most uncomfortable, most in pain even.
Right.
But you know, growth doesn't happen without being in that kind of push-pull situation where you have to step outside of your comfort zone. You have to stretch your faith to believe that you can get through the situation and that something more is on the other side ahead of you. And sometimes I've even found that you don't recognize, or I haven't recognized that growth as it's been happening. But once I've been on the other side, I've been able to look back and say, wow, I've changed so much. God has done so much in my life.
I love that, Tanika, because I think we can all relate to that. It's not the first thing you think about when you think about growing, right? But you're right on point. You know, I'm curious, Ariana, what your thoughts are. What's helped you grow the most in your faith?
So for me, I think it's really just talking to people whose faith inspires me. And I feel like the people that I talk to, they're like different age groups. And it can be older women for me. Sometimes it's just peers. Sometimes it's even just people from other churches across the ICOC in like different countries or states. So just kind of diversifying the people that I talk to, and gaining wisdom and knowledge and having conversations with others and learning about their faith and figuring out how can I apply what they're saying to my life as well. And I think also just reading books, reading books, but also listening to other people speak, different preachers, because we live in a world where there's so much access to information. So I think just listening to different perspectives.
No, thank you for that. And actually, I'm going to come back to that, this world that we live in with so much spiritual input and just the role that that plays. So thank you for that. Rachel, I'm thinking of you. What's helped you grow the most in your faith?
Yeah, I can really like resonate with what Tanika shared about just getting out of your comfort zone, which I think gets thrown around a lot. Like there's so many like YouTubers now who are like, you know, you need to like push yourself and challenge yourself. But actually, that's really how you grow, like, you know, even in fitness, like you have to challenge your muscles, right? And I think just doing things that force you to like rely on God. So like going to Cambodia, going to China was really me trying to step out of my comfort zone. And because Toronto and growing up in Canada was my comfort zone, like especially I grew up in a Christian household, so I was sheltered a lot and given a lot of like cushion in life. And I also was just curious of like how other people lived and wanted to see how other people lived out their faith. And I think that was inspiring too, and helped me to like, it challenged me in like what are my convictions about God and like about grace and truth, and it forced me to like question myself and like what I believe in by like getting out of the comfort zones and being around people who would challenge me too. So those are some examples.
So that's interesting. Tanika, you said growing through pain, and that can come not something that you invite. And what I'm hearing you say, Rachel, is being a little bit intentional and allowing yourself to be uncomfortable. So maybe inviting a little bit of discomfort so that you would grow, right?
Yeah, totally.
Love that. Josephine, what's helped you?
Okay, I never thought
25 years as a disciple.
yes, I never thought I would say this, but challenges and trials,
Yeah.
those are the ones that help me grow the most. And it's become one of my favorite scriptures now, James 1, verses 2 to 4. I'd like to read it in the Message Bible, if you don't mind. Consider it a sheer gift, friends, when tests and challenges come at you from all sides. You know that under pressure, your faith life is forced open and shows its true colors.
Oh my goodness.
So don't try to get out of anything prematurely. Let it do its work so you become mature and well developed, not deficient in any way. And I could share that I went through high conflict separation divorce that took 6 years. And it forced me to rely on God. I had no choice. To rely on God and rely on others, support, encouragement. It helped me to appreciate the blessings that I have in my life and foster a sense of gratitude and contentment. And I found a quote from Bob Marley. Never think that I'd find one from him, but it says, "You don't know how strong you are until being strong is the only choice you have."
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it taught me to rely on and trust in God's plan. You know, that it's not my will, but His will that's being done. And His plan is the one that prevails.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay, listen, I'm listening to you, and yeah, I that's a similar theme, you know, like making room to learn from others, but looks like pain and discomfort, challenges, these are just a recipe for growing in your faith, and it makes sense, right? You can't grow without them. I mean, it made me think, and I'm going to jump to this question, and maybe that's to, I don't know, maybe it's to jumping off of what you said, Ariana. When you're having so much spiritual input coming through social media and podcasts and Insta and all of that, how do you take responsibility for your own growth, right?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, it can be overwhelming sometimes hearing so many different perspectives. People have different convictions. Just because we're all Christians doesn't necessarily mean we all believe the same things all the time. So for me, like, I think time alone with God is how I try to stay grounded in figuring out what God is teaching me in certain situations. So although I love listening to other people's perspectives and just hearing not even just hearing other people's perspectives, but thinking about it and pondering it, I think it's also important to just kind of sit alone with God and ground ourselves in order to really learn or know what God is saying to us personally.
Even though you're getting a lot of that, you know, influx of input. Let's pivot from that for 1 second. Not just Ariana, I mean, all of us receive a lot of, you know, input, and we're all part of a vibrant community, faith community at Milestone Churches. But do you ever feel like there's too much spiritual content coming at you? And when you do, how do you take full responsibility for your own spiritual growth? Rachel, how do you do that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think a question that's actually been helpful for me lately is asking myself in those quiet moments, like, what do I need right now? Like, what does what does Rachel need? Is it that I need to watch like a whole sermon on YouTube, I don't know, from my favorite preacher, or is it that I just need to listen to a favorite song to just get myself back into like the that stillness that God always wants us to come back to? Or maybe it's like I need to do something more, like I need to go deeper in my Bible study, or but I feel like I liken spiritual, I guess, consumption as like food too, because like sometimes when you're hungry, like you're really hungry and you need like a lot, and then other times you're like, I just need a snack right now, and I'll be content with that. So I think like being able to learn how to listen to like what you need spiritually is important, and something that I'm always trying to learn.
Okay, interesting. Maybe I need a snack today. Maybe I need a full meal today. I'm just thinking, is there a point where maybe we snack too much but we feel okay, but that we're getting that content? That could be an issue. Tanika, how do you take responsibility for your own growth?
Sure. Yeah. And I agree. Like there is a high volume of spiritual content that's available, but I think a lot of it is assessing whether or not it's meeting your needs, like what Rachel was saying. So I do have to check in to think about, okay, where am I really at today? What has been bothering me? What's been nagging at my heart? Where do I need to go deeper? And then I go and I try and I meet that need through the scriptures. So I go back to whether it's my favorite scriptures or examples in the Bible. If people have gone through similar issues that I'm going through at the moment, and let that be more tailor-made to me and my situation. And I often find when I do that, I learn something even more than what I was expecting.
Yeah, I hear you. That gives me comfort because that's what I do too, right? Is just checking in with yourself. That's very important. I mean, Josephine, you've been a Christian 25 years. I'm sure you've received a lot of content from so many places. How do you take responsibility for your own growth? Or what's helping you lately?
Well, I think the main source is the Bible.
Yeah.
For me, it's Bible study, having daily quiet time, spending time with God, meditating on His Word, memorizing scriptures. I like to do the YouVersion app devotionals.
Yeah.
Always find what I need. As Rachel said, you look for your needs. And or online Bible studies. I really found some good devotionals on setting captives free. So I've been doing devotionals from there. What really helps me as well is being involved in Bible studies. That's really helped. And
Hold on for a moment there. Let me just check in with you. When you say being involved in Bible studies, what do you mean by that?
Well, this year I've had the opportunity to co-lead discovery classes. They're classes that teach people about the Bible. Those that are new to the faith, those that want to embrace Jesus for the first time, renew their perspective on God, or even recommit to finding their relationship with God.
I see.
So that's been very fulfilling.
Yeah.
I'm involved in assisting, and Friday nights I also teach a class. So it's been, as I said, very fulfilling for my spiritual growth. And also serving. I believe that serving is very, has really impacted me. Lately we have a neighbor that moved in, a Spanish family, so I get to practice my Spanish with them.
Yeah.
And they have 3 children, 3 young children under the age of 5.
Oh, wow.
And I, offered to babysit their children, offered to bring them meals or bring them gifts. They always send me text messages letting me know when the birthdays are. So it gives me a chance to serve.
Amazing. I love that. You've put in another aspect of growing, which is through serving, right?
Yes.
So something that you all shared at the beginning was pain. There's a role that pain plays in growing our faith. Josephine, I'm thinking of you because there's been a span of life. It's been said that pain is a powerful tool to help us grow. But sometimes you want to give up because it's too painful, right?
Right.
What helps you look beyond the hard situations or painful situations to see what's possible?
Well, I call it the power of pain.
The
As you
power of
said, it's
pain.
very powerful. And for me, the reminders are that it's really all about God, putting my trust in Him, His plan for my life, regular prayer time, spending time with Him, and just pouring out my heart, as Jesus did with loud cries and tears, and just, being real with God about my feelings. And I love going for prayer walks, those are my favorite.
Yeah.
Bible studies, again, like getting into the Bible, really digging deep and finding inspirational stories, like, the book of Job or the story of Joseph, that inspire me, and focusing on God's promises, those all help me to overcome whatever challenges I'm going through.
You're going through. I can't help but think, because you've shared all the good stuff, right? The stuff that we should all really be doing. Is there a time in your life that you would feel okay talking about where you were forced to see beyond a painful situation, and just an example of what helped in that moment to see beyond that hard situation?
Well, again, what helped me was to be in community, having my friends around. I'm part of King Circle. King Circle is
You want to
a
tell
prayer
folks
group.
what that is?
Sure. King Circle is a women's prayer group that we meet. I think Tanika knows, she's a part of it as well. We meet once a month, and it's been happening for 18 years. So I've had the privilege of being a part of it for 12 years.
Right.
So we meet, we listen to worship songs, we pray together, we listen to lessons, share testimonies, and it's very, very inspiring. 2 hours on a Saturday, from 11 to 1, and then we have potluck. When we get together, we have potlucks. There's also retreats that we do in the spring and the fall. Emily, you've had a taste of those.
I know I have. Yes, yeah.
And, a sunrise prayer time. So I found that was my lifeline, being in groups like even my friends. We meet every 2 months, and we're a group of women that basically love God, and we spend time eating, socializing,
Yeah, I think
playing
food
games.
connects all of
Yes,
us, right? Yeah,
playing
I hear
games
you.
and having spiritual conversations, just helping each other to get to heaven. Really that's the goal, right? And helping us to remain faithful.
Listen, Josephine, you've spoken about making connections. It's being in community. I'm thinking of you, Rachel, as well, when you talked about kinship. Sometimes it can be very busy. Life can be very busy, right? So this whole making space for meaningful relationships, it's not as easy as it seems. I know I can relate to that. Could you talk about the kind of mindset that helps you to make space for that, even if your life is so full?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think like many of us, like we've grown up in probably like first, second, third generation immigrant families where family is such a big thing, like that makes up our identity so much. And I think it's hard to think about going through life without close relationships, without friends who feel like family. So I think like that definitely helped shaped my view of relationships and the value of them. I think though at the same time, I'm an introvert, so I naturally am actually very happy when I'm alone. And I'm like never bored when I'm alone.
Right.
But
Hey, Rachel in her room reading and feeling good about, things.
yeah, so I, especially as I became a disciple, like I had to learn to value deeper spiritual relationships that would kind of require me to be more vulnerable. And there were times when I think when I would go through painful times or like struggling with depression or other just like deeply lonely times, I would feel like, oh, like the struggle with depression, for example, it's like isolating me from people and like why is God allowing that to happen? But in fact, like those times actually it showed me who my real friends were because it's like, you know, your real kindred spirits will be there for you in those hard, especially hard times. Like they won't leave you. And so I think that also made me appreciate friendships, period, and like helped me value just the really the privilege it is to be vulnerable in a safe space with somebody and to have that be reciprocated as well. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so here's the thing. You spoke about a few things that are hitting me there. Isolation, you know, and learning what deep friendships mean. Maybe Josephine, I could ask you about this. We've heard a lot about this epidemic of loneliness, right? Epidemic of loneliness, even when we have so many connections around us. What have you done to make room for these deep, meaningful relationships?
I think for me, it's making it a priority because life can be so busy. You know, we can get so caught up in our own little world,
Right.
but making it a priority that, you know, I need friends. I need people in my life. You know, I'm an extrovert. You know, I'm the opposite. And I thrive on being around people. So spending time with people, prioritizing time and, you know, consistency. Like it's, you know, I have a friend, for example, a disciple in Vienna that we met, it's probably as long as we've known each other. Pilar, she lives in Vienna, and we've been in communication, you know, every couple of months. You know, I have a prayer partner, for example, for 18 years I've been praying.
Right.
You know, almost every day we pray together. So it's, you know, mentors in my life. I seek advice from them. They, you know, vice versa. You know, we're just available for each other, supporting each other. And I've even been able to help others who are going through the same, you know, who went through or going through divorce as well.
Right. Okay, so I'm just kind of going to take a minute here and I'm going to go off script a little bit. When we talk about this whole making it a priority, is it just me sometimes? In my head, it's a priority, but making it a priority on paper is a bit difficult. Does anyone else have that issue? No?
Yeah, like, so you're saying that you know it's priority in your mind, but actually living it out and making it priority is a struggle.
Yeah.
Yes, I feel
How
like
do you make that connection, right?
yeah, I feel like I'm experiencing that right now in my life where I know that I need to make those connections a priority. But kind of like what Josephine said, we just get caught up in life. We get really busy. We're working, we're volunteering, we're doing a lot of things. We're trying to take care of ourselves. And I do think that there are seasons for that where you just take care of yourself. And that's not a bad thing. But I think making that time to connect, you have to be really intentional.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I guess that is the word, right? Intentional. Anyone else have any tips on how to make that connection?
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of it is momentum because you could go in the opposite direction where if it's like, you know, a desert in that area of your life, it kind of decreases. But if you're like, okay, how can sometimes I think about the easy connection points, the people that I can text really quickly, even if it's a word of encouragement or a funny meme, just to maintain that momentum. And then, you know, there are relationships that require more than just a quick text, that you know, more investment than that. But I just find like maintaining that momentum helps me to get there in terms of making the larger investments.
I love that. That's actually very helpful. It's practical because then you don't feel like there's this big desert, right? That's happening between one connection to another. Create the momentum. So that leads me, because we're talking about making connections, but let's talk a little bit about pouring out. So now you're filling in with, your time with God, with connection. There's this age-old question of, why am I here? Am I doing what I'm supposed to do? Do you ever have those questions? I mean, I think a lot of people are talking about purpose, right? Maybe Ariana could talk to you about this. What encouragement would you give to somebody who wants to pour into their community, right? But they feel like they're too busy. So it's not just about making connections, but now you want to pour out, but it's like, I'm too busy, man. I can't find time.
Yeah, I think reevaluating what is keeping you busy. And just prioritizing. So reevaluating, okay, what are the things that you're doing that make you feel really, or that make you busy, and then prioritizing what is the most important thing that you need to do. And then when it comes to pouring out into others, I think the first thing we need to do is just take care of ourselves. So do things that you enjoy that fill you up, so that when you are ready to pour out into others, your cup is filled.
Right.
So you can't pour out from an empty cup. So just doing little things for me, things that I enjoy might just be taking a walk, taking that time to actually sit down and drink coffee in the morning before going to work, or being in nature. Anything that kind of fills you up, and then that way you're able to pour out into others when it's time to.
Love that. Fill in, pour out, right? Makes sense. Anyone else? How do you do it in your lives, making time to pour out, even if your life is too busy?
I don't know if this is like something that I do, but it's more like something that I learned just about the value of pouring out or being connected to a community, like especially if anyone struggles with like mental health challenges. There's like more and more, I guess, research or just anecdotes coming out where it's like people are talking about the importance of being part of something greater than yourself. And I think a lot of us struggle with anxiety and loneliness because we're so focused on our own life, and we're not connected to something bigger than us. And our lives are important, but we get so much more joy when we're like what you said earlier about like your joy is so much more when you're like giving to others, and somehow God always creates a way to like give back to us when we're giving. So that mindset, I think, then can inform my actions when it comes to community, and like can help me reassess like how am I structuring my calendar, or like even like am I traveling too much for myself, or how can I incorporate community wherever I am, like or community building wherever I am or in whatever I'm doing. Like for example, like if I'm reading a book about career, how to think about your career in a spiritual way,
right?
And if I'm feeling like people are asking me about career and wanting to discuss that, like I can invite people to read the book together. And so that actually happened, and we have like 10 or so people in this book club now. And that's like just one example of how I'm trying to incorporate like community into the things that I'm trying to do as well, like to I guess help myself. But I think God understands like that we have needs as well, and he wants both our needs and our community's needs to get met. But he doesn't want us to be selfish in our lifestyle, and so but it's definitely a challenge.
Listen, you said a few things there that are so wise, because I think what I wanted to understand was the mindset when somebody already feels too busy, right? And you mentioned, well, just rest in the place that God wants to meet your needs as well, because sometimes you feel like you're too busy, so you're afraid that your needs won't get met. So I love that. And talking about that being a part of something greater than yourself, is that something you saw on TikTok?
I don't even remember where I saw it, but I saw it in multiple places. So
right. I mean, it makes sense, but I feel like it's run around somewhere, but I can't remember. But I mean, talking about things that we see and how they help us, how is social media, being part of social media, how have you used that to help you build community?
Oh, that's an interesting one. I'm sure like everyone, we've had ups and downs with social media. Recently, I came back to social media in a sense where I was kind of off like Instagram for a couple years because I didn't see much community or purpose in it.
Yeah.
All I saw was more just like my own struggles with comparison or jealousy, and seeing it as like a source of that. But after a couple years of being off and then coming back, I actually realized like, it's just a tool that,
just a
a lot of
tool.
people
Yeah.
can use for more selfish gain or like, vanity. But I think that I've personally used it as a tool now to be like almost like a gratitude journal or like a beauty journal where I can document the things that I'm grateful for, that I think are beautiful. And it's like, and I'm also a visual person, so
Yeah.
I love like looking for things that I can capture. It actually it's been kind of training me to look for the good things in my life and to look back on those things too. And so,
By capturing them, right?
yeah, and then
see.
sharing it with whoever is in my like
love that.
circle.
Yeah.
And then, receiving that, being on the receiving end of other people's great content. And of course, you can choose who you follow and who you stop following. But I think seeing it as a gratitude or a beauty journal has helped reframe how I see social media.
That. I actually never heard of that. Anybody ever heard of using social media as a beauty journal? No?
I
You've-
kind of used to do that. Maybe not a beauty journal, but more of like a reflection
Yeah.
journal or like a kind of like what you said, gratitude journal. Just documenting different things and being able to share it with people, I think, can bring a sense of joy. But I've also had my periods where I decided to like get off social media and just focus on being present. So
Yeah.
there's benefit to both being on social media, but also there is a lot of gain from not being on it too. So there's different seasons for it.
I love the concept of using it to build community by using the things that you already enjoy as a journal. Because a journal is very personal, right? So then it's not this big bad thing out there. Well, thanks for that, because that's another perspective. I know, Josephine, you've used social media to create community a lot. Tell us a
Yes.
little bit about that.
Well, about 10 years ago, I didn't come up with the idea, but I heard about Meetup. And Meetup was a way to connect people that like to do similar things, like
Right.
play basketball or tennis or, different activities, dancing, Zumba. And then I thought, what would I like to do? Like what are my passions? And the first thing that came to me is study the Bible with people. So what if I set up a meetup to have Bible studies?
Right.
So I asked a couple, husband and wife, in the church, and they agreed to sign up for the meetup.
Right.
And we ran weekly Bible studies in the library, which was free of charge, one of the meeting rooms in the library. And we would, from the meetup group, we would get people coming and we would share the Bible discussions. And now I have some statistics here that I looked up.
She's a real teacher, right?
I never thought. But okay, from one group, now I have 3 meetup groups. One is the non-denominational Christian church, which has 296 members. And another one is the
goodness.
non-denominational Christian Bible study, has 385 members.
And these are the names you gave these meetups,
are the
like you
meet-
came up
yes.
with those.
Yes.
I see.
And then I started another one recently, non-denominational Christian fellowship. And there's 45 people that signed up for that one. So now what I'm finding is that most of the people from the meetup group are attending discovery classes. So a lot of our discovery class participants are coming from the meetup groups.
So that's interesting because we tend to live sometimes where somebody could look at that and say, who's going to come for, a Christian meetup, right? Isn't that I don't know, because there's so many Christians things out there, right? Why do you think this has been very, caught on, that it's popular? What's helped?
I think it's the building friendships.
Yeah.
I mean, some of them became disciples, which is amazing. Some of them are friends. Like I've had friends, I consider them close friends now for almost 10 years, that we're in each other's life. We communicate and talk, they share what's going on in their lives. And, my prayer is that one day they too will become disciples. But I think it's, building those friendships, asking, for example, at the end of the Bible discussion, we'll say, what are some prayer requests that you might have? And just writing down their prayer requests and sending them a text, we're praying for you, I'm praying for you, and they really, really appreciate that.
Right. The friendships,
the
right?
friendships.
The genuine friendships, the connection.
Yes.
And I was just thinking of, that's something you intentionally did to build community. Ariana, I'm thinking of you and, your life season right now. It just has a natural opportunity to pour into other people. And I'm talking about you being a teacher, right? But what are other ways that are not so natural that you take into consideration and then pour into others?
Yeah, I think because I work with teenagers, and there's definitely a generational gap there. Right. So I'm realizing the older that I get in this profession, the more I have to make an intentional effort to get to know them, like to get to know how they are being raised, how they're growing up in this generation that we're in, and trying to still meet the students where they're at. I have to remember what it's like to be a high school student. Especially, just being a teacher, I need to remind myself constantly to put myself in their shoes, because it's much different when you're kind of out of school and you're living life, you're doing your job, you're kind of getting used to the flow of things, but they are in a position where they're really trying to grow. They're trying to see where they can get in their future. So I have to. It doesn't always feel natural. I have to constantly put myself in their shoes. And then even working in the teen ministry, like being a volunteer, and working with teens that grew up.
You're talking about in the church, right?
Church.
The youth ministry.
The youth ministry.
Right.
Growing up with teens in the youth ministry who grew up, who have grown up in this church. I did not grow up in this church. So again, I also have to try to put myself in their shoes and figure out and try to understand what it's like being raised in a church, and then trying to meet them where they're at. So I wouldn't say the relatability aspect isn't always natural, and so I have to make an intentional effort to to try to be relatable to them, or to just understand them. That's all it really is. I think, just understanding where they are coming from, and then pouring myself out
into them. So interesting. I'm going to ask something just to follow up. So does that mean, listen, I'm going to be on TikTok, I'm going to follow you, I'm going to, it seems like a natural thing, but, or is that I'm going to dress, try and figure out how you dress, or how does that?
Not quite.
Yeah, I thought so.
I'm not going on Instagram and adding any students.
Right.
Or teens in
Not
teen ministry.
appropriate.
So there has to be, so that's a great question actually that you asked, because I think there still needs to be a boundary with, I'm not their friend at the end of the day. I'm still I'm their mentor. Or that's how I look at it, right? And I think that the kids do need that. They don't need a peer. They have their peers, right? They do need someone who's older and who has different experience than them in order for them to also gain wisdom in a sense. So I think for me, it's just having conversations. It's asking lots of questions. So I just try to ask them questions on their day-to-day life. Just kind of, and I think being a teacher and being in the teen ministry is great, because I'm seeing the kids, I'm seeing multiple identities in students. I'm seeing what it's like to be a student. And I know the workload that students have because I'm the one assigning the homework. Okay? So for the most part, I know, like I can see what they have to carry as well. Like they're busy.
Yeah,
We
you
think kids aren't busy.
understand.
No, they're really busy. They have lots of
No,
things that's going
seriously?
on.
I don't know about that.
So I think being
No, I know they're busy.
yeah, being in the teen ministry is good because I'm not just seeing them as Christians or as people who are going to be Christians, or they might not decide to be Christians, right? I'm seeing them as just people too. Like they're students that have lives, that have tasks that they have to do. So I get to see different angles, which helps with understanding the kids on a more holistic level. Yeah.
So I hear from you, yes, there's a natural connection because you're a teacher and then you pour out into the youth ministry in the church, but even that you still have to work at being relatable. So there's some intention to it. I just, earlier we said, Josephine, that you're a caregiver for your elderly dad.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of you, like that is a natural way of giving, but you said there's some other ways that are not so natural that you've got to work hard at. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, for example, volunteering. I also volunteer. Even though I'm retired, I go and volunteer once a week at the school, and I love it because, it just, it's my family. I feel, at home, my family, and I'm able to give, what the students need. At this point, there's a lot of English as a second language need.
Right.
So I'm able to teach them English as a second language, and I work with small groups, and we get to interact and, help them read and learn English. There's a lot of immigrants that have come over from Ukraine, Russia, that are still coming over. So
it's finding ways,
Yeah, it fills a need, because I know with Dad, it's a 24-hour job.
Yeah.
Really taking care of Dad and his needs, and I have to find the balance between my own self-care and my own emotional well-being, and then my spiritual life, and so I find that I have to constantly remind myself that, as Ariana said, you can't pour into others until you first, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah.
Right? We have to fill our cup first. And spending time doing things that I like to do. As I said, Aquafit, you mentioned. I love to go to Aquafit. I just, yes, you don't feel like you're exercising, right? You're just enjoying the water.
Just the water,
but,
I hear you.
It's a great, it's a great, distraction from all the hustle and bustle and, the caregiving responsibilities. And of course I have to be flexible because my dad's needs are constantly changing. So I have to learn to be flexible there, how much time I can give to volunteer or, do the things that I like to do.
But the volunteering gives you a bit of flexibility because it's volunteering, right? Yes, it's a commitment, but everybody understands that, you don't always have to be there. Listen, I'm just thinking when you're pouring out, sometimes it does cost money, right?
It's true.
Sometimes it costs money.
True.
Right? So then I'm thinking, I just want to learn, hear from you ladies. You're, successful folks. Maybe Tanika, you can talk about this. What has been the biggest lesson that you've learned so far in the course of your life that has to do with managing money? You got to pour out, you need money. So you got to manage it to pour out, right?
True. Okay, well, there are a couple. One is just, as we've been talking about, the importance of generosity. I really do think it's a principle that extends into money management as well. So somehow, just the way that God has designed life and the world, the more you give, the more you end up having to manage. So I really feel that I'm meant to be, I think, at my best, a funnel. So as I receive from God, I can pour out to others, to causes that I believe in. And I found the more that I set goals for being generous, the benefit, I guess, it has to my finances.
Okay.
Yeah. And then
Interesting.
if I could add another one,
Yeah.
it would be to take risks. So I think so often it's like, you can operate from oh, well, I don't have enough and I need to conserve the little that I have. But there's lots that the Bible talks about in terms of investing. And I think if we start with the little that we have, it can, there's opportunity for it to grow and to multiply. And if mistakes happen, if things don't go as planned, that's normal, that's
Yeah.
part of life, but
Yeah.
it's not a reason to stop. God always has something new.
Oh, so that's what you meant by take risks, like
Yeah.
invest whatever little you have and let it. So that's an interesting one. So you talk about being generous and giving to causes. Is there a goal that you set for yourself every year? Like how practically, how do you go about that, making it a lifestyle?
I mean, something that has helped me personally is like tithing. Even 'Cause I find that that sets a framework for my giving. If I were to have to, think about this every month or for it to change, that would be actually stressful for me. So that's something that I like to do personally. But even beyond that, yeah, I like to set numeric goals or other types of goals too to aspire to, and yeah, it keeps me grounded in terms of what's the purpose of my finances too.
Is there a podcast or a speaker or book that's helped you the most to, feel like you've got control over your money?
Yes, there's a couple. So there's a book I'm actually reading now called The Treasure Principle. And there's another book that I've heard referenced on a podcast. I can't remember what it was, but it's called The Go Giver. And it's all about this principle too of just giving, being generous, and being ambitious in how generous you can be.
Nice one. The Go Giver
That's a
and the
good one.
Treasure Principle. You've read The Go Giver?
Yeah, I remember
Nice.
I found it once in chapters in our bookstore and I read it in one sitting because it's actually a short book, but it's so good. It's almost like, I think, like 10 parables or something to help you think differently about your money and being generous with it.
Right. How did that change for you? I've never heard of it, but I'm gonna try and get it.
Honestly, I can't remember like I guess like specific shifts that I had, but I think it was just this idea that like the scripture that Ariana mentioned, that it is, you are more blessed when you give than when you are just receiving, and somehow like God just takes care of us when we give, and I think yeah, I'm sorry, I don't really remember
Well, it's
that
okay.
much
It's just
about it,
interesting
but
to
I just
hear.
remember
Yeah.
it was different from like other maybe money books out there. Another
Awesome.
book actually that I would highly recommend. Actually, there's a TED Talk that kind of summarizes it,
Correct.
but it's called The Soul of Money.
The Soul of Money.
Yeah,
Okay.
and a few years ago, a friend who's kind of like a mentor for me, he mentioned that that book had helped him to change his relationship with money. And so I never even thought about the fact that we have a relationship with money, and
Right.
and some of us have not the best relationship with money, or like we're scared of spending it, and this book really that's the book actually that helped me a lot with money. Again, with like mindset. One of the, I guess, analogies that this author gives is that money is like water, and so it's meant to like flow in and out of your, your
Right.
bank accounts,
Right.
your wallet. And when it's stagnant, that's, like water, it gets gross and like swamp water, it's like, it's not meant to just stay stagnant.
Right.
And you're not meant to hold on to everything you have for yourself. It's meant to flow in and out, and when it flows, it has the power to cleanse and like purify things. And so if you can channel it into like a good cause or things that you just care about that are meaningful to you, one, it helps other people, but then it also, I think, does something for us. It makes us feel good too, which I don't think is wrong.
Yeah.
So that book really helped me a lot, especially with, growing up in a family where I would say my mom's side had a lot of like money trauma, just growing up poor, which maybe a lot of us could relate to. And so spending money was always like a source of anxiety. Like even I remember like buying an agenda or a calendar from the dollar store. And I love my mom, but she's like, Rachel, why did you buy another calendar? Like we have enough at home. And I was like, Mom, it's the dollar store.
Right.
But it showed me like, okay, I think we need to work on our relationship with money.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and then that book was really helpful.
Gold. I love that. I love thinking about it as a relationship, right? Because then you nurture it and it gives back to you. You don't nurture it, well, you don't get the benefits from it. Oh, so wise, so wise. We've gone through quite a few things. Now, talking about, I love like quotes and books and stuff. I want to read a quote. And I'm just curious what you all think about this quote. Okay, so it's a quote by Eleanor Roosevelt, and she says, "Burn the candles, use the nice sheets, wear the fancy dress, spray the perfume. Don't save them for special occasions only. Today is special, and so are you." I just could put that on a wall on my mirror every morning and say, "Today is special, and so are you." But what do you think of that quote? Like, to me, it's powerful, but I'm curious what you think. So I'm just going to say it one more time. Burn the candles, use the nice sheets, wear the fancy dress, spray the perfume. Don't save them for special occasions. Today is special, and so are you. Ariana, you're thinking about that. You got some thoughts.
Honestly,
Let's start with you.
I think that when I hear that quote, it just reminds me to live life.
Yeah.
Like to really live it without
Yeah.
hesitation.
Yeah.
And I think that, God has provided so many gifts to all of us. And we should treat every day like it's special, right? And I kind of didn't grow up with that mentality. I grew up with a very more like, you need to conserve things, save the perfume, save that outfit for a special occasion, wear your home clothes at home.
Right.
So I didn't grow up with that train of thought, to be honest. I grew up with the opposite. So it actually takes a little bit of unlearning for me to decide to live a bit more freely and not conserve so much. But I do think there's a balance. There's a balance to have.
Rein it in.
I do believe in balance. Like, but yeah, I think honestly, I just think we have to live. We have to live our lives, take risks.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you think, Tanika?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that quote. And it's something I'm trying to grow into more because similar, like I was more raised with the mindset of to save the perfume and things like that. But I'm developing a conviction that when I, take care of myself, it's also a signal to others that it opens up the door of permission, so to speak, for others to do the same thing. So, I'm communicating that I'm important, and I'm hopefully reminding others that they're important too, to take that time.
That is beautiful. Can you imagine in friendship when you feel like, what I do for myself gives you permission to be your full self. I want to be your friend. I am your friend. Rachel, what do you think of that quote?
Oh man. Honestly, at first, like it didn't really resonate with me. I think it's great, and I think it's definitely worth like following. But naturally, growing up, I would say like my mom wanted me to, be more feminine maybe. But maybe because I grew up with two brothers, I was always a tomboy. So like even today, I was like
I
almost
relate. Yes.
I was like gonna wear like a rugby shirt and like But then I was like, no, I should. After reading that quote, I was like, I should.
Take the fancy dress out,
I was
right?
like, I'm just gonna wear this.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think sometimes also, it's not just that I was a tomboy, but I think I was also just shy and I didn't want to
Yeah.
bring attention to myself.
Yeah.
Or I just didn't feel beautiful enough to put on the dress, to curl my hair or whatever. And so over the years, like I think God has really helped me to like have more confidence in myself and just like freedom to just be
Yeah.
do what you want, like wear what you want, what you feel comfortable with, and maybe like just try to wear a dress more often. And actually, I realized like dresses are really comfy.
They
Yeah,
are.
but
They are.
you
Thank
do
you
have to
for
sit
sharing
differently,
that.
but like,
Well, that's true.
but
Cross your legs. No, but seriously, thanks for sharing that. I can completely relate to that. How we don't give ourselves freedom. It's because we're constricted, whether by upbringing or personality even.
yeah.
And there's just freedom to that statement. I love what you said. It's just a God statement. Eleanor Brewer did, but Josephine, what do you think of that quote?
I think when I read it, the first thing that came to mind is it's about feeling good in your own skin.
Yeah.
Just being confident with who you are, how God made you, that, living in the moment and just enjoying life to the full,
Right.
and just, God created us beautiful and precious. We're precious and honored in His sight. I love mantras. I love quotes and inspirational, messages.
Yeah.
And I have them all over the house. So, and also vision boards. I keep a vision board where, I cut out different pictures from magazines and I created a poster and just, see myself in, 5-10 years from now, what I'd like to be, what I'd like to accomplish
Yeah.
in my life. And it just inspires me. Every time I look at it, it inspires me. It's like, oh yeah, that's right. I'd like to go on another mission trip. I'd like to go and serve in another country.
Oh wow.
Yes.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, so goodness, we've gone all around the globe, so to speak, of this topic, but thank you so much for everything that you've shared about digging deep, making space for relationships and pouring out from that overflow. And I think if there's one thing we take from here is exactly that, like be confident in your skin, fill up with God, and from that overflow pour into others. Thank you so much. It was great just being able to talk to you, gain from your wisdom, practical and everything, and sharing from your lives. Thank you all for joining us today. We hope you have a great day. Bye.
Bye.